Okay, moving on to the next question. It says Kiki meets her friend Zara. Draw a diagram to show how Kiki's smartphone can be used to provide Zara's tablet computer with an internet connection. Label each component and the connectivity you use in your diagram. Okay, so we're talking about Kiki's smartphone uh, providing an internet connection to Zara's tablet. Okay, let us first get the hardware devices. That is, let us first draw the smartphone. Okay, so let's draw a smartphone over here. Okay, let's draw something like this, and let's label this as the smartphone. So I'm just using the mouse to do this, which is why it's not very neat. Okay, so we do have the smartphone over here, and we also will require a tablet. Okay, so let me draw a rectangle like this, and let's label this the tab. Okay, so this smartphone is going to share its internet connection with the tab, and it's going to do that using something which we call tethering. Okay, a process called tethering, where one device will be sharing its internet connection with another device. Okay, now in order for the tab to connect to the smartphone, okay, in order for the tab to connect to the smartphone, it needs to happen wirelessly. Basically, Wi-Fi should be switched on in the tab. Okay, Wi-Fi needs to be switched on in the tab, and then from the list of Wi-Fi networks, the smartphone network needs to be selected. So what we can do over here is we can say the tab will be connected to the smartphone. Why am I drawing a dotted line? Is because it's not a wired connection, it's a wireless connection. Okay, a dotted line represents a wireless connection. How are the two connected? The two are going to be connected via Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is the symbol for Wi-Fi. Okay, this symbol represents Wi-Fi. Okay, and they are connected wirelessly. Okay, now when tethering is switched on, now the smartphone needs to switch on tethering. Okay, so when tethering is switched on, automatically the smartphone network will appear in the list of Wi-Fi networks in the tab, on the tab. Okay, now the moment the tab connects to the smartphone network, automatically the smartphone will become known as the hotspot. Okay, this will be known as the hotspot. The device that shares the internet connection is known as the hotspot. Okay, so this immediately becomes the hotspot. Now this entire process that we have going on over here, is what we call tethering. Okay, this entire process is called tethering, where the smartphone is sharing its internet connection with the tab. Okay, so I hope it makes sense to you. We have the smartphone which has switched on tethering. Okay, and then the tab has connected to the smartphone via Wi-Fi, which is a wireless connection. The moment that connection is established, the smartphone will be known as the hotspot device, because that is the device that's sharing its internet connection. This entire process is known as tethering. Okay, moving on, it says over here, explain why sharing an internet connection would affect the bandwidth available to Kiki's smartphone. So what we can do is we can draw a text box over here. Okay, so they're asking why is the bandwidth going to be affected when the internet connection is going to be shared. So you can very simply say, since the internet connection is shared, the bandwidth will also have to be shared. Okay, so you can say, since the internet connection is being shared with Zara's tablet, the bandwidth will also have to be shared, thus resulting in a reduction. We can say thus resulting in a lower bandwidth being sent to Kiki's smartphone. Okay, say for example, previously Kiki was receiving a bandwidth of 10 megabytes per second. Okay, but now that she's sharing her internet connection, the bandwidth is also going to be shared. So from 10 megabytes it might come down to 5 megabytes, might come down to 4 megabytes, or maybe slightly higher, 6 megabytes. Okay, but definitely it's going to come down. The reason it's coming down is because Kiki is sharing her internet connection with another device. Okay, Kiki's smartphone and Zara's tablet share a lot of the same functionality. Okay, State the term used to describe this. Let's draw a text box over here. So when one device behaves like multiple other devices, we call it convergence. Okay, so over here we can type convergence. Convergence is the term that's given. So for example, you have certain smartphones. For example, if you look at the Samsung Note series, it's such a powerful device. Okay, it's a smartphone. It can also be used as a tab. It can also be used as a gaming console. It can also be used as a graphics tablet. Okay, so that it's one device behaving like multiple devices is known as convergence. Okay, they share a lot of the same functionality. Moving on, it says the smartphone has a 4 gigahertz CPU, a central processing unit. Describe the function of a CPU. So let us first put the full form of it. Let's say the central processing unit is responsible for converting data into information. Okay, that is executing all commands, or is executing all commands. Okay, so you can put an answer like this. So we do have something called the central processing unit, which basically has something known as a processor, and the function of the processor is to convert data into information, or else you can say it is basically executing the commands. Now for example, when I do give a command, when I for example click on this button, it's a command that I'm giving. So as soon as I give this command, the central processing unit, the processor, will execute it, and immediately this will pop up. Okay, so that's what we call executing. You give a command, the processor will execute it. It will carry out the needful. Okay. The next question goes on to say the smartphone uses application software. Describe the purpose of application software. So we do know there are two main categories of software in the computer. Okay, when you talk about software, we know there are two main categories, which is system software and application software. And we do know that system software is responsible for managing the entire computer, and we do know that if any part of system software is missing, your computer is not going to function. On the other hand, application software is software that helps the user carry out specific tasks. So for example, you want to carry out calculations, you can go ahead and use spreadsheets. You want to, for example, prepare a presentation, you can go ahead and use presentation software. You want to, for example, edit some images, you can use graphics editing software. Okay, so that is the purpose of application software. Each type of application software will help the user achieve a specific task. Okay, so you can say application software helps the user perform specific tasks. Okay, and if since they're giving 2 marks, I feel like this is not enough, but so just to convince the examiner even more, you can say, for example, when the user wants to carry out calculations, they can use spreadsheet software. Okay, just to convince the examiner that you do know what application software really is. Moving on to the next question, it says explain one benefit of using solid state storage with a smartphone. So there are multiple benefits. I'll tell you the benefits of it, but I'll just list down one. Okay, so they're asking you to explain. So one benefit, for example, with solid storage is the fact that it does not consume a lot of energy. Okay, it does not consume a lot of power. Okay, so what's the benefit of that? You can say when solid state storage does not consume a lot of power, so the smartphone would have a longer battery life, or you can say, oh, the smartphone's battery life would not be shortened, or you can say the smartphone's battery life would not be highly affected by the solid state storage. Okay, that's just one benefit, the fact that it does not consume a lot of power. Another benefit you can talk about is the fact that a solid state storage is extremely slim in size, so they can easily fit into smartphones and keep smartphones very slim and portable. Okay, nowadays if you do look at the smartphones that come out, they're extremely slim, they are extremely portable, they can easily fit into your pocket. Okay, and this is only possible because their storage is solid state. Okay, SSD. Okay, moving on to another benefit that you can talk about is the fact that solid state storage has an extremely high read write speed. Okay, so your phone does not get slow. Okay, your phone operates at a good speed. Okay, that's another benefit that you can talk about. So I'll just go with one of them. I'll talk about the battery life. I can simply say solid state storage does not consume a lot of power, a lot of power, lot of power. So it would not affect the smartphone's battery life. Okay, okay, so it would of course take a little bit of battery, but not a lot. It wouldn't dramatically affect it. Okay, there would be a small effect only. Okay, Kiki smartphone uses an open source operating system. Which one of these describes the source code in an open source operating system? So, from the four answers that have been given below, it is owned by a company, it is made available to users, it is more secure, it uses less processing power. The best answer we can have is answer B. So, when you go for an open source operating system, an operating system where the source code is provided, so the best answer is B. The source code is made available to users. Anybody who wants a source code can have it downloaded for free. Okay, so let's put the answer B, where I can say it is made available to users. Okay, moving on to the next question. It says Zara uses her tablet computer to watch TV online. Describe the function of a router. So a router has multiple functions, around 4 to 5 functions a router has, but in context of this question, the best answer we can give for the function of a router is we can say that the router acts as a gateway between the the tablet computer and the internet. Okay, so basically in order to get her tablet computer connected to the internet, the router will be in between. It will be acting as a gateway in between. Okay, so let me properly describe it. You can say the router would act as a gateway where it would connect Zara's tablet computer to the ISP. Okay, so basically what happens is the router will connect to an internet service provider. Okay, whichever company is providing her with an internet connection, the router would connect her tablet computer to the ISP. From the ISP she would be connected to the internet. Okay, so where it would connect Zara's tablet computer to the ISP, which would then connect her to the internet. Okay, so from the tablet she is connected to the router is connected to the ISP, which stands for internet service provider, a company that provides you with an internet connection. That company would then connect her to the internet. Okay, so this is the function of a router. Okay, state 2 benefits to Zara of online TV. Okay, so when you talk about online TV, where you're watching TV online through the internet, you can first talk about that the number of channels that are available are much larger, are much bigger. Okay, you can say the number of available channels are much larger, or you can say are much more. Then something else that you can talk about is that when you're using online TV, you can access it from any device. You don't have to use a particular device only. Okay, so you can talk about it. You can say that online TV can be accessed from any device with an internet connection. Okay, also maybe you can talk about the fact that when you use online TV, they will be using cookies to track what channels you are interested in, what programs you are interested in, and according to that they will start making suggestions. Like for example how Netflix works. Netflix knows what you're interested in. They keep tracking what type of TV shows, what type of movies you watch, and they start making suggestions, and sometimes these suggestions are so useful, isn't it? So when you use online TV, the same thing can happen. They can be tracking what you're interested in, what programs you watch, what type of movies you watch, what type of documentaries you watch, and then based on that they can start making suggestions which you may find useful. Okay, so that's another benefit of using online TV. Okay, moving on. Moving on. It says Zara streams an online video. She sees the notice shown in figure 1. So it says your files are no longer accessible. Yes, send a payment as described below. You have 14 days to send payment. How do I pay? Send £500 in Bitcoin to the following key. Okay, so they're asking to describe what has happened to Zara. Okay, so let us first draw a text box from here to here. Okay, and let's go through this question again. So your 4 files are no longer accessible. Okay, so this is basically a malware. Okay, and a harmful program has entered her device, has got into a device. That's what we call a malware, a harmful program. Now what type of a malware are we dealing with? We are dealing with something known as ransomware. Okay, the malware that has got into her device is known as ransomware. So how does ransomware do? Basically what ransomware does is it encrypts all the files on your device. So all the files on your device become unreadable unless you have the password to open it. Okay, that's what we call that's what I mean by the files have been encrypted. So when the files get encrypted, as you do know, it gets jumbled up, it gets scrambled up. In order for it to come back to normal form, the correct password has to be entered, or we say the correct key has to be entered. So the same thing has happened to Zara, where a malware that is known as a ransomware has got into her device, encrypted all the files, which is why it says your files are no longer accessible. And if she wants to decrypt it, okay, she will have to send a payment. How many days does she have to sort this out? She has 14 days. And if she decides to do it, how much should she do? How much should she pay? She needs to pay £500 in Bitcoin. To whom should she pay? Obviously the name of the hacker will not be mentioned. Instead they have given we don't call this an account, we call this a key. A key has been given. To this key she has to pay £500 in Bitcoin. Okay, so let's write it down over here. You can say Zara's device has been affected by a malware known as ransomware. This malware has encrypted all her files, and in order for them to be decrypted, she would have to make a payment of £500 in Bitcoin to a specific account that has been mentioned. Okay, so I do hope my answer is complete. Let me go through it again. Has been so they are saying describe what has happened to Zara. You can say this malware has encrypted all her files. In order for them to be decrypted and accessible, she would have to make a payment of 500. It has been mentioned in the notice. Okay, I think this is good enough, isn't it? So we have told what has happened, we have told that ransomware has got in, and then we have told what has happened to her files. Her files have all become encrypted. What is her solution? A solution is for them to become decrypted and accessible. In order for this to happen, this is what she needs to do. Okay, so I think my answer is sufficient enough. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says give 2 benefits to Zara of connecting her tablet computer to her television. So she has a tab. What is the benefit of connecting that tab to her television? Okay, let's draw a text box first. So obviously the first thing that comes to mind is a television has a much bigger screen. Okay, it has a much bigger screen than a tablet. So that is her first benefit. You can say the television has a much bigger screen than a tablet computer. Okay, Another benefit that you can talk about is a television would have much better speakers, isn't it, than a tab. Okay, televisions are built for entertainment, isn't it? They are built for entertainment, so they would definitely have a much better sound system than what a tab would have. Okay, we can say a television would have a much better sound system than her tablet computer. Okay. You can also talk about the fact that she will not have to strain her eyes. Now when you're using a tab, the tab is in your hands and it's quite close to your eyes, and everything is appearing much smaller because you're using it on a smaller screen, so you tend to strain your eyes a little more when you use a tab, right? However, when you use a TV screen, the screen is much further away from you, it's much bigger, so you do not strain your eyes so much. So you can talk about that as well. Okay, so the next question I'll be continuing in the next video.